Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my 2 informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. So I'm going to talk about someone who I haven't talked about in a long time, probably been a year or more. Has it been? Probably. Someone linked me a video that Steve Cook did of him giving a demonstration of an arm workout for a $50 arm program he's selling. I'm sorry, it's like $49.95, but we can call that $50. But to be fair, it's just under $50. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit. Let's talk about this. You guys already know my stance on people selling programs. Most of the best programs that are out there are already available really cheap or free. Okay, they're already there. You should never need to pay for a cookie cutter program. If you're getting a customized program from a coach who is assessing you on a weekly basis, who is assessing your performance and your progress on a weekly basis, okay, that's called coaching. You don't pay for programs unless it's a very, very comprehensive ebook, maybe in some cases, because it possesses a body of knowledge, but certainly not just a program. So I went ahead and watched the workout he put some guy named Doug through. I guess he might be another YouTuber. I'm not familiar with him at all. But he puts him through this workout, and he jumped back over to that same nonsense that, was it Scott Herman I covered you to that? And I normally like Scott Herman. This total nonsense about 3 factors of muscle hypertrophy, and they keep going. Mechanical tension, which is true. Metabolic fatigue, which is true. And then they keep throwing in muscle damage. That's not real. That's not real. And I keep seeing these guys refer to this, and he finally broke it down in the video, and I'm going to jump to that in a minute. But it's like they don't understand the muscle damage we're talking about that stimulates growth is part of the metabolic fatigue already. Okay, that's the same thing. There's not 3, there's only 2. Metabolic fatigue is the muscle damage. Okay, they're not separatable. They're not separatable. And I started looking at kind of what he was doing and talking about there, and it's like, Steve, you better be glad you have good arm genetics and you use gear and know how to pass a drug test. Because, damn, he's making arm training a lot more complicated than it really is. He really is making it very complex. I'm sorry, guys, biceps and triceps are not particularly complicated muscles. They bend the elbow. All right, that's what they do. Okay, yeah, there can be some shoulder extension involved with one head of the tricep, but basically your arms, the muscles of your upper arm, they bend your elbow. That's what they do. Not that complicated. And I finally figured out what he meant by muscle damage, because I couldn't figure out what the hell Scott Herman was trying to talk about, because there isn't a difference. And he said, well, we have workouts to where we do 8-second negatives, up to 8-second negatives to damage the muscle. And here's the thing. This is going back to what we call pseudoscience. Pseudoscience meaning you use scientific terms that you don't actually know the meaning of, because you're not up to speed with the science. It falls into the area of bro science. Okay, he's talking about muscle damage. Slow eccentrics don't actually damage your muscle tissue. The micro tears that slow extensions cause is in your connective tissue. It's in the muscle fascia on the ends. That's why it makes you sore. It doesn't make you grow. When it's been studied in the lab, and it has been studied for decades, there have been multiple studies done on this, they find slow negatives don't create more muscle growth. They don't create more muscle growth. The only time negatives seem to produce really strong muscle growth, stronger than just doing a normal controlled negative of 1 second, is when you load them with weights heavier than your 1 rep max. Because you can lower a weight, you can lower a heavy weight than you can lift under control. In other words, if your max bench is 300, you might be able to control 325 on the way down to your chest on the eccentric. You just won't be able to press it, right? You're stronger on the eccentric. And they have found there's some interesting muscle fiber stimulation done that way, but what they find is that it doesn't necessarily produce more than if you had just done the concentric and eccentric together. It's just that you get as much muscle growth if you just do the heavy lowering. But it's more dangerous and requires more complexity, and it makes you more sore. that muscle damage that he's talking about is not in the actual muscle tissue, and it doesn't stimulate growth. So this is already nonsense. This is someone who's trying to use scientific terms that aren't backed by real physiology. He's just kind of making it up. Making it up. But the first of the workout they did, he was talking about it being the mechanical tension day. And these guys get this right. Mechanical tension, yes, it is caused by using a heavier weight with good form. Or a heavier weight with bad form if it's heavier than your last bad form was with the same bad form. In other words, as long as the amount of cheating is the same, mechanical tension is created by more load being loaded on the muscle through the same range of motion and angles. Right? It increases mechanical tension as the weight goes up. In other words, benching 400 pounds creates more mechanical tension on your chest and triceps than using the same form with 300 pounds. It's considerably more mechanical tension. That mechanical tension is a factor in muscle growth. But he was talking about in the hypertrophy range. Well, guys, that's an outdated concept. There is no hypertrophy range. People say, what? There is no hypertrophy rep range. There is none. You know what we found? We found lab studies to where when volume is equal, low reps produce the same muscle growth that high reps do. In other words, 3 rep sets, if you move the same amount of total weight, usually like 7 sets of 3, produces the exact same muscle growth as 3 sets of 10 does with corresponding levels of fatigue. Because obviously you're going to have more weight on the bar for 7 sets of 3 than you're able to lift for 3 sets of 10. So that extra mechanical tension creates the same amount of metabolic fatigue when it's combined into the work, and therefore the same amount of muscle growth occurs. There is no hypertrophy range. And here's the question, what does he mean the heaviest weight you can use in the hypertrophy range? Why aren't you guys doing that on all your work? If your goal is to grow, every work set should be that way. If your goal is hypertrophy, you should be maximizing mechanical tension in every rep range. You shouldn't be, if you're capable of doing 300 pounds for 8 reps, doing a couple sets of 8 with 250 probably isn't going to stimulate very much new growth. So again, what does everyone know? This is all training incorporates this. All basic training incorporates the mechanical tension. But the thing is, he's not understanding mechanical tension. If you wanted more mechanical tension, you wouldn't be doing 10 reps. You don't ever maximize mechanical tension with 10 reps. It's not possible. So why is he separating that from his metabolic fatigue days? Doing 3 sets of 10 is probably going to induce nearly maximal metabolic fatigue. If not, then 5 sets of 10 will. Mechanical tension days, it makes it sound like he's trying to do undulating periodization, but he's not really doing so. He's just doing silly exercises and throwing silly stuff in and undulating that. In reality, real undulating periodization might be 5 rep days and then 10 rep days, right? And you might call your 3 rep or 5 rep days a heavy day, your more mechanical tension day, and then your metabolic fatigue day would be your 5 sets of 10, right? But he's breaking them up in a silly way. And the worst part is, he couldn't just stick with basic exercises. Do you guys know the secret of most of the guys who've ever developed massive arms? Before drugs existed, before synthol existed, before site enhancement existed. And you guys don't think men's physique guys use site enhancement? I promise you they do. Every bodybuilder does. A lot of natty bodybuilders use site enhancement. Men's physique guys too. You want to know how most guys got really big arms? They got really, really strong on all their presses, their bench press, overhead press, dips. Their pulling, their rows, and their chin-ups. They got really strong on those. And then if they needed more development, they did some curls and tricep extensions. And applied progressive overload. All right, arm training is that simple. But to come in and have someone do like a pullover and then a closed grip press, and he was talking about mechanical tension, you didn't have the guy use over 130 pounds on a closed grip press. I think that was the heaviest he peaked to, and he was using a lot less. And he only showed 1 rep with that. Why didn't he just have them do a normal closed grip bench press? If you're trying to create mechanical tension in your triceps, do a heavy closed grip bench press. You don't use a curl bar and do a pullover trying to create eccentric loading. What good is eccentric loading with lightweight going to do you? The only time we ever found eccentric loading to have hypertrophy benefits is when there's enough weight to actually make it hard. All right, he's not using a heavy weight. And just doing an eccentric and then bringing it over and just doing a closed grip bench press and having finished with a 130-pound closed grip bench press. Come on. And this is a guy who's known in the fitness world using a weight that light. I got novices who run my free programs that I don't charge $50 for, who are closed gripping like 225 for work sets at the end of the program. You guys watch me close grip like 275 as an old man. I used to close grip 315 for work sets on camera, and I have done it on camera in the past, back when I was benching all the time. Seriously, 130 pounds, and that's supposed to, why don't you put him under an actual bar, get him over in the bench press and put him under a bar. And if you need more tricep work after you do all that, go ahead and do some skull crushers. All right, this is the sort of nonsense that people come up with who want to try to sell you a program like they have some magical secret. There is no magical secret to arms. Arms grow depending upon your genetic potential, and not all of us are blessed with great arm genetics. I'm not. I accept that, by getting really strong on pressing and pulling, and then, if necessary, doing additional curls and tricep extensions. Okay, that's it. Progressive overload, stimulate with adaptative stress, recover, eat, sleep, grow. Repeat. That's it. That's all there is. That's all there is to it. But he has no sort of proper programming written, so it's not like there's anything complex here. He's just undulating systems with goofy-ass exercises and pretending like that's how he built his arms. They're going to charge people $50 for it, while just spouting bro science, hypertrophy rep range, muscle damage with 8-second eccentrics. The science doesn't support this. In fact, kind of the other thing, and I almost hate to say it, the science doesn't even support that adding curls and tricep extensions to your bench press and pulling actually make your arms grow either. The science doesn't even seem to back that, but everyone does it because we all don't want to have small arms, and we don't want to take the risk. We don't want to take the risk that our arms are going to get shortchanged because everyone cares about arms. That's the only reason any of us do these isolation movements for our arms, because we're scared to take the risk that maybe, just maybe, even though the science says it doesn't work, that maybe we'll get a little more arm growth out of it, and we don't dare leave any on the table. That's it, but the science doesn't even back that at this point. The science pretty much shows, no, you can get big a biceps as possible doing lat pull downs if you do enough reps and sets, and then adding curls behind it doesn't seem to make them grow any faster. How messed up is that? That's what the science shows. But where was any of that? He didn't discuss that. There was no focus on the big compound movements. There was no focus on actually understanding how mechanical tension works, metabolic fatigue works, none of that. All of that for a program he wants to sell for $50. You know what? You guys want bigger biceps? There's free programs. Go run Pavel Tasseline's Greasing the Groove on chin-ups. You get strong enough to do 20 dead hang chin-ups on Pavel's free program, you'll probably have pretty decent biceps. How's that? How's that? Program out there written by Pavel Tasselin, Russian coach, to get anybody up to being able to do 20 chin-ups. You can do 20 chin-ups in a row, you're going to have pretty good biceps. I don't care who you are. How do you like that? How's that for a free program to replace this nonsense? But always remember, guys, as I say when it comes to all this stuff, a fool and his money shall soon part. And Steve looks the part. And there's a lot of young fools who look up to that and don't know any better, and they shell out that money because they want arms like Steve. And you can't blame them. But at the end of the day, there has to be people out here telling them, guys, this is all bullshit. That's not even how he built his arms. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.